Well, hello and welcome back to Read Becca. It's time for my second library treasure hunt. This is where I delve through the shelves of my library looking for some hidden gems. So for February, my selection was Alien Nation, 36 True Tales of Immigration, edited by Sofia Stefanovic. And this currently has 111 ratings, 28 reviews, and a 3.93 average on Goodreads at the moment. So I was feeling nonfiction, and also I've been vibing with shorter work, so this was the perfect fit. I also would have described it to you as a bit like The Moth, a very famous podcast and live performance, not quite performance, a storytelling series that's out there. And then I got to the author bio, or the editor bio at the end, and discovered that Stefanovic does in fact work for The Moth. So very apt comparison. If you enjoy The Moth, this is like that, but centering immigrant stories. This is such a great collection of stories that include some of the harrowing and hard elements of being an immigrant, but not focusing or centering that. This is much more about moments in life as an immigrant. And if you've experienced The Moth, it's anecdotes from the everyday told in a way that's very compelling. And that's really what this is. So much of the storytelling in these essays is really about finding identity and the amalgamation of what it means to be a person who has immigrated from one place to another, who has gone through self-reinvention. And many of these essays cover that theme and topic, but there is one that in particular reached me here. This, you think, is how a person is made, a composite of geographies and untidy narratives. Pretty soon, lying becomes so easy that it starts to feel like the real you. You think maybe this is who I am, or who this new country wants me to be. It is intoxicating, this ability to forge a new self, an entire history out of the scraps of memories and distorted photographs, and what you see on TV. Perhaps you think this is how to make a future, but in building a future, you dismantle a past. In its place is a person hard fought, hard won from an unforgiving country, a person that is worth calling home about. But as you scratch the foil off the calling card to reveal the secret code underneath that will connect you back home, you stop and think, who do I say is calling? And that rings so very, very true to all of the experiences throughout this, that conflict internally of loving your home, loving your culture and identity, while also having an internal conflict about the experience of immigrating and having opened yourself up to something new and the freedoms that brings. There's an essay that I loved here about language and second languages that really expresses that aspect very, very well. In English, I can say I love you to a man in a month or two. Not just to any man, don't worry, to a man I am with. The words fall out of my mouth like milk teeth. I love you. I hate you. God is not listening when I speak English. In Russian, my birth language, it would take years of not saying it to say I love you. In Russian, the word love and the word freedom sometimes have a crushing weight. Just to lift them up to my mouth takes most of my strength. We are chained to words in our birth languages. In English, I am free. I love that sentiment. I love the hope that that brings. I'm personally not someone that has a second language. I've done some language learning, but it's never really gone quite as far as actually being conversational significantly. I'm in the midst of a 2-year project on that, but I still haven't gotten there. And yet, I work with people on a daily basis, all day, every day, who are working in their second language, in English. And it brings such a strength in terms of what someone has gone through to get there, to make a way forward for themselves. And the ideas that we have ingrained in us based on our cultures, based on our cultural history, based on our past in our birth country versus an immigrant country. That's just such a powerful sentiment. There's also something that comes up in a couple of the essays that I found really intriguing because it specifically came up in 2 essays from the opposite side, really, of the information that's imbued in us or misinformation. So this first one is coming from a childhood in South Africa. Mandela was just now a free man, still negotiating our future, still heaving a whole country off the cliff edge of civil war, using nothing but clever words threaded through his strong teeth. A schoolmate called Mandela a thug, an otherwise bright boy, this kid. I got into a verbal spat with him, reminding him all the things his family had stolen. He looked at me, confused, like he wanted to cry. Bad people go to jail, he said. And now the baddest person in the world, a terrorist, gets waltzed out of jail and you lot want to make him president. I remember it was sunny outside, that the windows were steel cottage frames, huge colonial gateways forever flooded with light, and it was quiet. Even the purple jacarandas seemed witness to my shocked discovery. A person could be as bright as this boy and still come out stupid. So clearly this boy has been very propagandized, obviously. But then later on, we see it from the opposite side, from the immigrant side who's been propagandized. And I believe this one is from a perspective of a Caribbean immigrant to America. When my mother told me she and I were moving to the Northeast Bronx, I cried. I was scared. I had heard that the Bronx was dangerous. All I knew from watching the news was that there were brown people who were criminals, and many of them seemed to be from the Bronx. The media had instilled in me images of brown people as bad. When I moved to the Bronx, I realized it wasn't a bad place. The people were just people, hardworking people with families. And there was a mix of brown and white people. So these experiences remind me why I want to read something like this, that this is filled with these anecdotal stories from a wide range of people's experiences. Those aspects of misinformation and misconception are so easy to fall apart once you have that value of real experience. And hearing that from someone in the first hand through stories like these is so important. And that's why I just love collections like this that give us a real wide range of individuals telling their personal story, coming from all over the world to a shared optimism and hope of change and bettering their life. And I love the wide variety here. We have everything from a girlhood story of being pushed into a public speaking group as an awkward young girl, only to grow up to become a comedian. We have the story of someone who fled Libya because they were gay, experiencing their first New York Pride celebration. Everything from awkward and funny to heartwarming to hopeful to heartbreaking stories. Most of these don't go into too much political territory, but there is a very fiery political essay from the well-known author Siri Hustvedt. And I will mention some of the names here. So many of these were names that I have not heard before, but quite a lot, several of these are names you will know, certainly here on BookTube, as popular authors or, as I said, stand-up comedian. So we have Aparna Nancherla, Andre Aciman, Xochitl Gonzalez, who has been all over BookTube lately, Alexander Chee, and as I said, Siri Hustvedt is certainly here. So quite a few people of interest, I guess, to BookTube, but I think for me this collection was so strong because while this wasn't a case of every single essay blowing me away, it was a case where every single essay had something that I connected with or learned from or came to understand more through. And I think that's the importance here. That's the value here, is that reading this, I was able to empathize more with my fellow human being who, as immigrants, are just trying to live their lives and improve incrementally in the same way that I am. And I just love that. I feel like this really was an enriching collection to read. So with that, I very much enjoyed Alien Nation, and I highly recommend it to you as an underrated gem.